India's fastest growing social media platform is not ShareChat. It's Koo. You might not have heard of them, but they've racked up 15 million monthly active users and are exploding in Kenya. This app is used by Indian politicians, and recently, the UP chief minister became the first person to rack up 51 lakh followers on Koo. What's amazing is that this app has actually released their algorithm publicly, so anyone can check out how Koo works, unlike the social media giants in the West. Tune in for a deep dive as we talk to the founder of Koo on this week's episode.
A lot of investors, whether in India or globally, when they're talking about why they're investing, they give all the right answers, right? But when they actually invest, uh, they invest for reasons which are not those answers, right? Exactly the opposite. Investor A is investing in the company because investor B is investing. Investor B is investing because investor C is investing. Investor C is investing because investor D is investing. Investor D is investing because the founder is a friend's friend who they have a lot of confidence on. Right? So, where everybody is assuming that somebody's put in a lot of uh, thought into why they're investing and then investing.
Hey Aprameya, thanks for agreeing to do this. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. So Aprameya, what's one truth few people agree with you on? This is our intro question now.
Well, uh, one truth that few people agree with me on. So I'll try to answer this, and then we'll try to fit it into the into the question. Uh, I think a lot of investors, whether in India or globally, uh, when they're talking about why they're investing, they give all the right answers, right? But when they actually invest, uh, they invest for reasons which are not those answers, right?
Hmm.
Exactly the opposite. Investor A is investing in the company because investor B is investing. Investor B is investing because investor C is investing. Investor C is investing because investor D is investing. Investor D is investing because the founder is a friend's friend who they have a lot of confidence on. Right? So, where everybody is assuming that somebody's put in a lot of uh, thought into why they're investing and then investing. Right? So now this is the fact of life, and what we're assuming from the outside is that there's a lot of deep thought that's gone into investing into a company. But the
Hmm.
fact of the matter is that uh, people invest first and then figure out how to make it a success most of the time, and that's most of the stories that are played out. And if you see most of the stories that are trying to be salvaged even today are because of this story, right? First you invest, then you make the story, then when it gets into trouble, you salvage the story, right? Uh,
That's true of a
Well,
lot
it's a
of
good
things in
one,
life, right? In retrospect, everything
actually.
makes sense.
No,
yeah,
no, I think just building on what Mazin said, it's not only true for investing, I think it's true for decisions. In the last conversation that we were having with Fractal CEO and founder, um, he brought up the example of Jeff Bezos and regret minimization framework. And my point was that I think Bezos would have started Amazon anyway. He was just justifying his decision using this framework.
yeah,
And I think it's probably true in life for for most things, not
yeah.
only investments.
No, so actually, so I was talking somewhere, and I mentioned this. Whether it's taxi for sure in my own personal journey, taxi for sure, and Koo. 95% plus of the time, I'm super confused. I don't know what we're doing. We're not. I don't feel like a success. Nothing of that, nothing of the positive emotions ever happen 95% of the time, because everybody's doubting you, everybody's putting you in a situation, right? Like, your employees to investors to customers to, you name it, everybody's questioning as to why you will work and why you can do it, right? Especially for the Indian market, right, where self-doubt is extremely high. uh, and only less than 5% of the time you actually feel successful, or come across a positive moment that you can only celebrate for a day or half a day, right?
Right.
So that's broadly the journey that I've also seen.
How do you deal with this doubt? And I think you made two interesting points here. One is a doubt bit, and secondly, do you think we are a negative culture as well, which is we dwell too much on what's going wrong and don't celebrate the wins? I mean, there are two questions, kind of related.
Yeah, so I think culturally, um unfortunate, but culturally what's happened is we look for why we should believe in something or someone is dependent on somebody else's belief in that. And
Hmm.
the more west that somebody is, the better it is for us. So the more west meaning the more white the person
Right, right,
is.
of course.
uh, so they, as in the west culture is, I believe in it because of my own first principle basis belief of why I believe in this person or something that they're building. But for
Right.
us, it's not the case. I mean, the more we learn how to do that, I think we'll be world beaters rather than
Mm.
followers. The more you follow, the more you'll be following, right? So to become number one in the world, you have to believe in yourself. And if 100 people believe in themselves, maybe 10 of them will work, and that's how we start the trend or the culture of believing in oneself, right? So I don't know if I answered your question, but
No,
this,
it
And
does.
so let's talk a bit about your journey for Taxi for sure. But before you did that, what was sort of the inspiration to start up? I believe you had a pretty typical, kind of journey before, did an MBA, started a corporate job. What was the motivation to start up for the first time?
so the the principle around which I started thinking about starting up was very simple. I started working for a corporate. The corporate, the initial period was great. I didn't know about real estate. I was learning. I I It was a whole new thing that I was being introduced to. So it was super interesting. Then I caught up with the industry very fast, right? Like, I got to know what it was, and then I started making an impact for the company, whatever they were expecting me to do. Uh, then came the phase of, oh, okay, now I've made my impact as well. Can we do more, right? Can we aspire to do more? Can we innovate? I came to that phase. So this was all in 2 years, by the way. Like, first 6 months, maybe I got used to it. Second, after that, a year, I think, I started moving from, just understanding to making an impact. Then started thinking about, okay, can we do these 5 innovations and hence increase our revenue or reduce our cost, or, all of those things. And nobody seemed to be interested, like, to innovate and get better, or, everybody's broadly had a predefined target, and as long as they met it and exceeded it by 10%, they were fine. So I got introduced to the fact that, I think it's globally, but, an employee mindset is, how do I get the maximum money out of the least amount of work, and especially here, right? So max money for least amount of work is what is driving everything, right? And it's not, oh, can I innovate for the kick of it, right? Like, leave the money will come, but, you know am I getting better? Am I impacting something? Has something changed positively? So that is not the driver for most people, I observe. And that is when I started reading, books about Make My Trip and Red Bus, and, the few Book My Show. So the few startups that were already brands, and, their stories, and that kind of made me feel that these guys had a lot more freedom to go and innovate and do stuff on their own. So you have to be your own boss. You have to be doing your own thing to be able to live this life rather than maximize money for least amount of work. Right? Like I was willing to give my all, but it was going into the wrong place. Right? Not because it was wrong. It was just the wrong place. Right? So that's how I started thinking about ideas. Two, three different folks I spoke to, two, three different friends, different ideas. Everybody was broadly in the same space where they were bored with their corporate job, but you know, some were more risk taking, some were not. Then that's how Taxi for Sure came up as an idea, and we doubled down on it, actually executed.
Yeah, I think, Mazin, just before we move on, I had one philosophical question.
Hmm.
Uh, why do you think employees maximize money for little time, and why does this continue? I mean, why doesn't this cycle end? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think again, it might be true for the world, but what I've observed in India is actually in one way positive, but the other way it's also harming the society, which is everybody thinks they deserve better.
Hmm.
Some way aspirational, but some way also disrespecting what they're doing today, right? So, for example, you take any level of anybody, right? Like you go to the restaurant, even a five-star restaurant, the guy who's serving you basically thinks this job that he's doing of waiting on you, taking orders and serving you food, even in a five-star, is demeaning to him, and he deserves to be the owner of a five-star restaurant.
Hmm.
He's aspirational, but today he doesn't care about what he's doing. Okay, you take a taxi driver for you know, let's say he doesn't own the cab, somebody else owns it. He's thinking, I'm driving this cab, I need to become an owner. So he's already demeaning what he's doing today and already moving to the next level. So everybody lives most of the time at the next level, while it will take 5 years to get there. But those 5 years they're spending without true meaning or respect to what they're doing. Okay, so you take this philosophy and apply it to your question of why do people try to maximize money for least effort? Because they don't respect what they're doing today. They all think that
Fascinating.
they deserve better, right?
Hmm.
And when everybody thinks that, they're saying, okay, let me save up money for my next thing, which might come true, might not come true, and most times won't come. So I think this is how you kind of like,
Oh, that's a great point. Actually, I think it's true.
yeah,
The "I deserve better" mindset
yeah, yeah. Whether,
makes you
whether they truly deserve it or not, nobody cares. I
nobody
deserve
cares.
better is the theme.
And going back to your journey, I mean, you said you were discussing ideas with few of your friends. All of them were kind of in the same place. I think we've all been there. Bored at my job. I want to do something more meaningful. I believe I deserve better. How did you pick that this is the right person to start a company with?
I think, in the true sense, nobody picks anybody. Everybody self chooses themselves into a journey. I chose myself into Taxi for Sure, and somebody else, Raghu, in that case, self chose himself into that journey. Uh, both of us are not picking each other. Uh, we we saw an opportunity which both of us were excited about to execute. And did we analyze too much? No. As in, what's he good at? What am I good at? All of that we didn't get into. Broadly, we fit into what. When we started executing, I took more of the external stuff. He took more of the internal stuff by nature. Uh, and if I think of it, if what if both of us were very externally focused, then it would have been a problem, right? Like nobody would have wanted to do the internal stuff, or nobody would have wanted to do the external stuff. So somehow you kind of like fit yourselves in, and even now, Mayank. So I think I'm very clear that I like the external stuff. In the journey of Koo, Mayank does most of the execution internally, right? So he's the champion there, and I actually don't want to interfere too much, because if I also want to execute some of the internal stuff, then it becomes noise rather than actually helping accelerate the internal stuff. So that's broadly how you self-select your role also once you've selected the journey.
Yeah, and so now walk us through, Taxi for Sure. When you guys started, obviously Ola and Uber were around. What was the thought process, and how did you guys get your first few customers?
I think first few customers is very commonsensical and hustle is all I would say, irrespective of what whoever the story is about. So for us, we started with airport transfers. We said, okay, we can give you a cheaper airport transfer than what radio taxis were giving. That was the message. And we asked a few friends of ours who were working in tech conglomerates, right? Like whether it's Infosys or Wipro, TCS, all these places. We just told them, you have an employee dashboard. Why don't you just put out saying there's this option to get to the airport at 650 rupees, and that actually got us our first customers, right? And um,
So it was B2B, the way you started, basically, almost like that.
yeah, as in you pick your channels, right?
Right,
High trust network of a intranet where a fellow employee is putting out a suggestion, somebody will use
right.
it, and then 650 rupees is a great price, and then people start talking about it, and that's how you kind of like start growing.
And just for context, when is this happening?
2011.
And obviously, not everybody has a phone, and even the internet penetration on web is not that high in India.
Yeah, this is pre-smartphone. This is all towards the end of BlackBerry. So I still had a BlackBerry phone. Uh, the you know there was, as in, BlackBerry and some early smartphones were there coming in, but no app concept, right? Like there were phones to do email and some basic chats and all of those things, but this is even pre WhatsApp, I think, or WhatsApp was just coming in, or something like that. So that's broadly the time frame, and we basically kept moving in that direction. So keep thinking logically. So we were more search based, right? Like it wasn't branding. We were small. So where do people go to when they look for a taxi? So one is Google, second is Just Dial, then Ask Laila. Uh,
Right. Wow, those were the days when you're going to a classified
yeah,
to find a taxi.
like all of these places, you had to pay to get onto the top of the list, and then get calls. So all of the that's what we went through for the first few customers.
And then, I mean, it was there was quite the journey, and I believe after you wrapped up Taxi for Sure, you took a bit of a break, um, spent some time thinking about stuff. Can you walk us through that journey, um, and kind of the transition to Koo?
Yeah,
And perhaps if you could add some learnings from the taxi for sure journey as well, I think we in summary.
yeah. The learnings that we had was pretty straightforward. I mean, I think one thing we did was, oh, okay, we need to be unit level profitable, and all of those things based on observations from a red bus journey and make my trip. But the market was more aggressive than that. So we were taking earlier examples and trying to behave in a certain way as a company, and we were very happy that we were more unit level profitable than Ola. We were burning much lesser. All of those things were metrics of success for us. But the market was in an aggressive mode, right? Everybody broadly were giving more weightage to, here's an open market. How fast can you grab it all? Right? Can you become the brand for cabs in India. So, which meant market would uh, be okay with a little bit of extra money being burnt as long as you could become the brand in India. So I think we didn't listen to that very well. Like we didn't like take that feedback. While nobody will give you direct feedback, but the way in which things were being funded, or how much was being funded, what stories were actually being funded, all that gave an idea of what the market was in the mood for. uh, and broadly saying that markets won't always be that like that, but can you be an early reader of the market? When is it going to be aggressive? When is it going to be uh, pessimistic? And then can you read that quick enough and react fast, right? You will get into trouble when the market is going from very bullish to bearish also. If you
Right.
start spending in that transition, you will be in trouble again. You need to be a good reader of the market. I think that's one lesson for sure. And why as in while working on taxi for sure, we were thinking of introducing language apps for the drivers, right?
Right.
And that stayed with me. I started thinking about how the internet would be for the new users who are coming onto the internet in hundreds of millions, and what really uh, helped us English speaking folks on the internet was the ability to connect with people, the ability to express, the ability to search for information. And the new users also would need all of this to accelerate their own personal lives. It's not just about coming and seeing some videos.
Of
Coming to
course.
the internet, right? So we also started with go to the internet for what? We went to the internet for heavy consumption initially, and then there was a lot of chatting and doing time pass on the internet for a long time, and
It
then
was more entertainment in the beginning, and then
it started changing our lives more meaningfully. Uh,
right.
right, become more convenient. So that journey would happen in a much more accelerated fashion for most other people who spoke languages as well. So we said, okay, while content and entertainment will be provided by anybody, but the more meaningful basics of the internet will have to be reimagined. That's how we started thinking about products, and our journey through that got us to try out various products and kept trying out new stuff, right? Like Vocal is our question answer platform. It's more web, it's more Quora like. Uh,
Right.
in that journey, a lot of people who were giving answers on the platform said, I just don't want to give answers, but I also want to express whatever's on my mind. That got us
Hmm.
thinking about why they're not doing it on Twitter, and saw that Twitter basically is 1% of India talking to each other. The other 98, 99% who use WhatsApp, um, are all stuck with their voices in those WhatsApp groups. It's not coming out in the open. It's all in their friends and family circle, which is also offline, right?
Right.
So we said, okay, an open expression experience is something that broader India doesn't even have. They've never experienced. Uh, so that's why we even started, and wanted to give a more um, you know inclusive experience of self-expression on the internet, which meant knowing English is not a barrier for you to express yourself openly, right? You might have a point of opinion, you know irrespective of the language, and our job is to make sure that you are confident of saying it out loud.
Were there any learnings from the competition that you faced in taxi for sure that you bring to here? Because this is also a super competitive market. Obviously, you ended up selling to a competitor. Any learnings from that as well?
Learnings from competition, I think they were very heavily focused on the things that would help them raise more money,
Understand.
whereas we were very focused on everything that would make it a long-term successful business. For example, our backend was automated to another level. Like, all driver dispatch, their accounts, everything was automated. I think even when Ola bought us, their backend was all manual. So they would reconcile
Interesting.
Excel sheets at the end of the day. But
Wow.
their app would look very sophisticated, more sophisticated than us. So the
Hmm.
user side looked more sophisticated, but the backend was manual. Whereas
Right.
our engineering efforts went in all directions, and hence we could do more stuff on the back end, which is not so sophisticated, and it doesn't need to be sophisticated in looks. But we also could spend lesser time on the front end, which needed to be a little more sophisticated. So the perception of who will be more successful uh, was there, and they could do that because they raised more money. So
Right.
they could make up for some of the manual stuff on the back end and miscalculations and paying drivers more. All of that was forgiven in the bigger picture, right?
Hmm.
Whereas we wanted to be accurate and very proper and all of those things. So what is the right way or wrong way? Nobody knows. Right? Like in the long run, what they had done initially worked very well for them, but in the long run, it's probably not worked as well, right?
Right.
What didn't work for us initially may have worked in the long run. So if the investors had doubled down on Taxi for Sure instead of Ola, what would have happened? God only knows. So I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong. I think the market finds a way to accelerate everything. Uh,
Yeah. Now, so so after Taxi for Sure, I believe you spent some time investing, and can you kind of walk us through that experience? And did those experiences kind of help you with your journey for Koo? How did you come across the problem? I mean, you started describing the problem a little bit, but what made you realize that it's now is the right time to solve this problem?
And in the backdrop of so many already existing social networks. So, when you started Taxi for Sure, the internet was not accessible, and uh, it was a very new and novel thing to book a cab online. Obviously, when you started Koo, there were already existing social networks. Internet penetration had picked up a lot. Smartphones were picking up. Internet penetration on mobile was also up. So I think very different dynamics here. Maybe entering a super competitive market.
so it's actually not competitive. What you use each social network for is very different. Right?
Right.
Facebook is a friends and family network. The content you find there, or organically what you should find, now it's a bunch of random videos they push. But what you're expecting is family and friends updates on life, right? I
Right.
got married, I had a kid, I went on a holiday. That is what you're expecting on Facebook.
Right.
And the network is family and friends. So it's a closed, known network with life events. Okay. So that is separate. LinkedIn is career. So you're expecting ex colleagues, present colleagues, and future people you want to work with, content from them, and career oriented stuff. Instagram is lifestyle. What I eat, where I go, what I wear, where I work out, all of that is Instagram. And it's an open network. Anybody can follow anybody unless you closed your profile.
And
Uh,
broadcast, I guess.
huh.
There, you're going more to a broadcast, and I think you'll talk about Twitter, which is even more
Yeah,
broadcast.
Twitter is more thoughts and opinions, right? So every network is unique, and because
Right.
of the uniqueness of what you express and what you follow people for, then the while all of us are on all platforms, I might be connected to you on LinkedIn, but I'm not connected to you on Instagram. So when I express on Instagram, I'm reaching a very different audience and in a different frame of mind, right? When I express the same thing on LinkedIn, I'm reaching a different audience. The uniqueness of connections on each network makes each one valuable. So the connections that we are enabling on Koo, so if you come on Koo and start expressing English and other languages, your expression goes to a different set of people altogether, which none of these platforms ever will give you. An open network in languages is non-existent, right? So actually there is no competition. Even Twitter is not competition in languages, right? So that's it's a nuanced understanding of social media, and it will occur only if you've gone through my journey, right? Otherwise it's me stating it out, and you might half agree half disagree with what I'm saying, but once it plays out and everything becomes available as an information, it becomes a great strategy, right? A job of a successful entrepreneur is to always predict the future and hope it comes true with all the hard work they put in, right? That happened with Taxi for sure. That's happening with Koo as well. It's always great that you're in a place where you have to explain. Once it becomes obvious, then everybody sees it, right? But to accelerate an unknown to the obvious is success.
Have you seen any, turning points in Koo's journey or any indicators that you've sort of started, that it's becoming obvious to people?
Yeah, I think for the people who understand the importance of reaching out to the broader audience of India, which is 98% of India, it's already there. It's obvious, right? Which means for an Indian cricketer to know that the guys who are actually buying tickets, waiting in a queue, and making the most noise in the stadium, it's the language speaking India, is obvious to them. The English speaking Indian is asking for a pass and sitting in an AC room, and then if you get out for a duck, they'll say, this guy shouldn't play for India, etc. Language speaking India is sweating it out, cheering. If they get out for a duck, they're saying emotionally, they're saying, boss, no matter what, till you hit your next 100, I'm going to keep cheering for you. So very different Indias, right? This is the logical, this is the emotional. So they already know. The politician knows who's the voter. The Bollywood guy who knows who's the guy, buying tickets to watch the movie in a queue. So all of these guys already know, and that's why they're on Koo. The very educated English India, which is kind of like the know-it-all segment of India, right? They feel they know it all, but they actually don't. That segment will be on Koo the laggards, actually, because they don't even know the reason. They don't even know why they should be making their voice felt in their own country, because the English speaking India is actually very West focused, right? So they want their voice to be heard in the West, and hence they will always be on Twitter more than on Koo, right? But that makes us weaker as a country, because your most educated folks are more outside focused than inside focused, right? They're not helping develop the thoughts and opinions of the wider uh, population of India. So anyway, all of that is very country specific stuff that
No, but
needs to happen.
I think that's really helpful to kind of put stuff into perspective and to kind of illustrate the difference in the user base that you're going after. And so with that, my next question is, what about monetization? How is that different for Koo versus traditional social media platforms? How do you guys go about, what are your revenue streams? If you can walk us through it.
So I think, while Netflix is moving from subscription to advertising, and, Twitter is trying to move from advertising to some kind of subscription. The
Keep
truth
moving
is,
around.
the truth is somewhere in between. Like there is no this will work or that will work. It has to be this will work to an extent, and this also will add to a certain extent. And I think some of the Chinese apps have actually shown us that, right? Like, the ability to innovate based on what your market really is ready for, uh, is actually a great learning for us. I mean, the way India will monetize on platforms like Koo might be very, very different from what the West is ready for, right? So I think that's broadly what I feel, and we've already started advertising efforts on the platform, but we're also introducing a lot of in-app experiences that will help creators make money, users make money, as well as so the truth of us, the truth we are chasing is there are four stakeholders: user first, creator, advertiser, platform. In
Okay.
that order, you have to keep people happy. Now, if you build only an emotional ecosystem, right, where creator just is very, very happy just getting likes and followers and comments, right?
That's
Let's
not
say
good for you.
creator only wants that and no money. Okay, you just give that. But as soon as the platform starts making money and the creator doesn't get a part of it, it's a problem. So you're using me
And you're
to make money and you're
monetizing.
not,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's
That's
a place where you can't exist in collaboration with the creator anymore. User also, right? Boss, all of you guys are making money. Platform, advertiser is getting me and hence he's happy. Creator is getting a share. What about me? I'm the guy spending the time, right? So I think the right balance of emotion, commercial, everything happening in a very balanced manner between the four stakeholders on a social media platform is the truth to be chased. If you're in that journey, as long as your goal is that, it'll work. If you're missing any of these players, there will be somebody who can come and disrupt you.
That's a really interesting way to think about your moat and kind of keeping all your participants happy. No, I really, and one more challenge I think that a lot of that affects all these groups in different ways that a lot of platforms face is fake news. How do you tackle that? How do you deal with fake news? Make sure that you're getting good quality verified content on your platform.
I think fake news, misinformation is something that uh, you know we keep comparing ourselves to the offline world. Right? Offline world exists much longer than the online world. Online world is a 30-year phenomenon. Offline world has existed. Now, is there misinformation in the offline world? How does one deal with it in the offline world? Now, let's say we just take college, right? It's a community. It's a controlled community. When you were in college, were there rumors ever?
Yes, of course.
Was that disinformation or was that fact? How did you fact check it?
You didn't, right? You either believed
Right?
it or you didn't. Yeah, yeah,
No, that's based on some logic. You believed it based on who told you.
right, right. The source. That's true. Yeah.
The source, you would always go back to, oh, okay, if Aprameya is talking about it, it must be true. But if Aviral is talking about it, it must be false. Right? Because he's known to talk without checking. Right?
Reputation. Yeah.
Whereas I only talk if I'm very sure. So there is some weightage given to who is the source of information. Now that is the offline world, which without any logic, you've used your brains as intelligent
Didn't
humans
it?
to do it. Now, how do you bring that into the online world?
So why doesn't it
Right?
happen? Maybe
How do you,
that's the question, right? Why do people believe WhatsApp forwards? But yeah,
yeah, WhatsApp forwards again. That's exactly, even the IT intermediary guidelines. See, nobody's really thought of first principles, right? Like, you know, in a private company, the more interactions happen, the more time is spent, the more successful you are, because you're only doing advertising. Right? That's why I said monetization is the truth is somewhere in
You
between.
just kind of,
It's
yeah.
not just advertising. It's not just, right. If
Okay.
you're trying to only optimize amount of time spent on a platform and retention, and rumors are entertaining, boss. Like, why would you
You end
stop
up
it
with
if
that.
you were a profit-seeking platform? You wouldn't. It's not in your interest to stop rumors on your platform. It is funny. It is engaging. It is worth spending time on. All of that happens, and hence the platform has no incentive, right? But if your platform is known as the source of truth, or has the responsibility to show out as much truth as possible, then you have to put some first principle thinking in, put some weightage to the person who was the source of all this information. Can you build technology around it? Can you make your product more transparent and open about this source of information? And if I find that you have lied this time through a democratic approach, not my approach, not as the platform, but as a democratic approach, I get 10 fact checkers to fact check what you've said. And 80% of them said, this guy said something false. Then I will take into consideration, I will reduce the truth quotient of your profile, saying, okay, boss, this guy is a little too freedom of speechy. You have to figure out whether you want to believe him or not, right? It's up to you. As in, I'm not stopping him, but I'm putting a little caveat saying he's been found guilty 20% of the time, right? And another person 100% of the time has been true. Now
You
it's
make a
intelligence when
decision.
you're consuming.
Right. That's fascinating. I mean, are these so these are things you have actually implemented to some extent, or played around with?
We're in the process. Yeah, we're I think, see, this is society, boss. Like,
No,
when
not
you
easy,
look
not
at what
easy,
Elon,
bro. Right.
yeah, you look at what Elon is trying to do, right? He's trying to do a very hard approach to a soft problem,
Doesn't work.
right?
People break
And the
it
whole
very.
world isn't up. Yeah. So see, soft products. Social is a soft product. You you need to know the million shades of gray in a social product. Because one human being has so many shades of gray. Now you've got hundreds of millions of users, and look at the kind of complexity that you're dealing with, right? It's not going to be a black and white answer. While you will try to, logic says you put it into a black and white solution, but the fact of the actual solution might be somewhere giving an answer in the gray, which is what I'm saying. 74% true most of the times is a gray answer. Not saying this is false, this is true, I'm deplatforming this guy. All of these are black and white solutions to a gray world. You have to have gray solutions for a gray world.
How has growth been for you over the last 3-4 years?
Growth, as in, we've been very fortunate to have ridden the wave here, right? So, because, every time Twitter's gotten into trouble in India, we've actually seen growth. We've actually seen a lot of people come on board and uh, start using the platform. Some of the most important people of this country, right? And if you look at it, India has never created a social platform like this before. Like, we've created content platforms where you pay one guy for content and then show it to another guy and then in between make money, right? So that is a very predictable engine. This is a an organism, uh, a living being in itself. What we've created, right? We put no control over it. This is actually a living being, right? Uh, somebody will join that kind of takes the platform and morphs it slightly into something. Then somebody else joins, it morphs into something else. So it's a blend of everybody who joins, right? Like our body, right? Like, you know, we're what you're seeing is a combination of million cells. But if one cell goes hayward, then this goes down, right? So uh, that's basically what Koo is also, right? And we're trying to keep it as organic as possible. And that's the magic of it. You can never recreate this. The moments that we have experienced building Koo has been quite awesome, and we want to replicate that across the globe. We want this to reflect the true essence of this world, right? So what we did in India, I think, is an opportunity. Right now, there's an opening and opportunity to do it across the world, including the English speaking world, because what we had said, okay, that is Twitter's strength, and let's let it be. And the 80% of the world, which is what we should go and capture, has now changed. We will capture the 80% because Twitter has gone away from it even further. But there is also an opportunity to capture the English world, which is looking for an alternative now. So I think that's what we want to be, and we want to, while building this, we want to be as transparent, open, neutral. Uh, you know, uh, the logic that I shared with you on misinformation and all of those things. Very first principle thinking, and with no motive. The only motive is to be as true as possible.
And I believe you even released your algorithm publicly, right? I mean, you take transparency to another level. um, what's the thought
Yeah,
process behind that? It's
no
just
social media. Yeah, I was saying there is no social media platform in the world. We use a lot of them, right? Nobody will tell you what their algorithm is. We are
exactly.
telling you, right? Just again coming back to the blessings of the West, right, or the white skin. Um if this was done by Facebook, it would have been a headline that every intellectual of India would have read and felt
Wow.
like they themselves had created it. But it's being done in India, and we're using first principles. There is a doubt. Why? Because I doubt myself and my capability as an Indian. What will another Indian do? Is the doubt, right? We should abolish that.
Yes. No.
Aprameya, what scale are you at today in
We're
terms of users?
yeah, we're about 10 million monthly active users, 50 million downloads overall. Um, so, I think this is a 2.5-year-old company. A two and a
Right,
half year old company hitting the scale with like features of Twitter plus more. Like we have, like you can't schedule a tweet. You can schedule a
right,
tweet.
right.
You can do in multiple languages. You can't tweet in multiple languages at once, right? So we have a lot of features that Twitter doesn't have. 2.5 years with Twitter spending 16 years of existence to build the same things that we have built in 2 years, and probably with much lesser resources, much less capable in the public eye, much less capable resources as well, right? So, as in,
No, it makes me wonder.
this has taken my self belief to another level. So, it's just about how much we dream and how much of those dreams will be supported. And another philosophy I have is, till we keep solving only Indian problems, the world will only say, okay, I'll fund you for India. But the day Indian companies and Indian founders solve for the world, you will be attractive for the world. There is nobody who will not support. But we should break that barrier.
And, well, I would love to hear more about that and what you've done to kind of break that barrier and solve for the world, right? And how like,
No, what right now, what we're building right now, all the statements I made
right, right.
just now are all the things that we're breaking barriers. As in, okay, I'm saying we've already done what Twitter has done plus plus.
Right.
You tell me if we hadn't done it, would anybody in the world think they can recreate Twitter?
No, that itself is just kind of
Right? I think sometimes we're too good to be true
yeah.
for anybody to say, okay, you're claiming it, but I doubt you still remains with us.
Hmm.
Because nobody's really going deeper. Like again, first statement I made, investor A, I'm just talking investor now, but investor A invested because B, because C, because D just like the person, right? uh, so nobody's using first principles, nobody's digging deep enough to see why is why are these guys claiming it, and are they true in what they're saying, or are you just looking at my face and seeing how confident I am, right? Because faking confidence, I think a lot of people do, but to be able to stay true to what you're saying and give enough data and answer every question that there is a thing that we haven't probably done very good at.
Interesting. And what's your view on what's happening at Twitter today?
I think uh, broadly they're in flux, right? uh, for us it's an advantage, but as a company itself, I think they're they're in between a journey. Like, you know, I'm sure Musk has a plan. It doesn't seem like it, but he must be guiding it
Hmm.
somewhere. And they're in that journey. I think the old guys are leaving. Some new guys will join. All of that. So I think fundamentally, as a product, it will change, and it'll take
Right.
some time. It'll take a year, 2 years, God knows. As I said, it's not a hard problem. It's not okay. I'm Musk as a genius making a electric car and then going and giving it to the world, and then everybody appreciating it as one type of journey, or sending
Right.
rockets, like immense potential, right? Like crazy brain power at work and immense respect for that. But I think social media is a very different animal. It's too, like, those are hard problems, as in felt problems that you can
Yeah,
see.
there are humans involved. I think at least I like to look at it as science, hard science problems and hard human problems. It's
Correct.
very difficult to approach a hard human problem.
Yeah, and for Elon Musk, who makes even having children a science, right? To understand human emotion, I don't know whether how much time it will take for him to gather this around. Will he make Twitter more like, given that he's saying transactions and super app and all of those things, it seems like he's dragging a soft platform into a hard place because that's what he knows,
Right.
rather than him understanding the soft problem and solving it well.
No, that's interesting. Um, I think so too. I actually feel like um, there's an engineer trying to run the social network, and this is what an engineer would do with a social network.
Yeah,
I think Jack Dorsey probably wasn't. He was a hacker plus had that softer aspect, and a lot of respect for Mark Zuckerberg for being able to build so many social networks, because I think it's super challenging. It's very nuanced soft problem, like you said.
yeah. No, you have to be connected deeply. You have to be very, very high on your EQ to be able to run a successful social network. That much I know.
Hmm.
You can't be high on IQ and run a successful social.
And I believe that you guys have actually seen a lot of growth in Nigeria. Was that planned or did that just sort of happen? Would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so, as in Twitter keeps giving us opportunities, right? We're actually the second largest microblogging platform in the world today. After Twitter, it is Koo. There is nobody else in between, right? and we've got a mature, good product that we're rolling out to the world. Um, and coming back to your question on Nigeria, Nigeria banned Twitter for a few months, and
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay. So then you guys were just
that's when
next
we
to it.
went in. The president of Nigeria came in. So we will keep taking those opportunities. These are big opportunities. Like the most premier people of a country using your product doesn't happen every day. What does it take? Making yourself available in those countries, in those languages, is all it takes.
Well, yeah. And having a platform that's as good or better than Twitter and all of that stuff that comes with it. And so with that, curious, what's next for Koo? What does the future look like for you guys? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, I think uh, the true global alternative to Twitter is what Koo will become. You will see a lot more countries. You saw India adopting it and making it a success. You will see a lot more countries as they get to know. Today, nobody knows about Koo. Our challenge is that you know we've been a very India centric and India building kind of a company. Now we're trying to mature into a global company. Uh, if we're successful in doing that, if you look at the definition of global consumer tech giants, right? It's a Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp. Uh, maximum there's a TikTok from China. That's the only side inclusion of a global tech, consumer platform. So we actually want to be the TikTok moment for India in that moment, in that sense, where here's a tech solution to the world, right? Consumer first. Like we've taken other solutions, SaaS and everything else, but it's a hard sell. This is a pure user consumer, uh, B2C brand driven tech solution that we want to take to the world. And, we see this opportunity and add India to the list of countries which have a global tech.
Awesome. And I think just to close, Aprameya, what's one piece of unfiltered feedback you received in your journey that really changed the way you looked at things?
Actually, it's not work related. It's more health related.
Okay.
So one, so I've been brought up to be a food lover. Right? So my whole family celebrates with food. Whether when we are very happy, we eat a lot. When we are very sad, we eat a lot. So that basically is the role of food, right, in our lives, and that's how I've been brought up. Actually, after I got married, is when I got introduced to a much more holistic view of health, uh,
Right.
where you know eating in moderation, uh, keeping a tab on physical activity, uh, all of those aspects were introduced into my life with feedback from my wife, so, and her family overall, because that's the culture she came from. So I think that's the most life changing feedback that I've incorporated into my own
Hmm.
life. Still work in progress though. Like I'm much better than what I was, but I want to be even better than what I am today. Because you know, you know, I do believe that once I'm aware, if I don't make use of that awareness, it's all waste, right? Like
Right.
that you're aware. Before it was unawareness. Like I wasn't
Right.
even very sure of that. So yeah, I think that's the one.
Awesome. Thank you, Aprameya. Great conversation. Hope our listeners will enjoy it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.